Last year, I met a smart, courageous young man named Robert Day. Robert works at a Potbelly's in Union Station in Washington, D.C. He's worked there for several years, and he makes less than $10 an hour with no benefits. When I met Robert last year, he told me that he barely exists. Rent, food, milk, diapers, electricity, heat, it has to be paid, he said. Then he asked, how can I get ahead on poverty wages and no benefits? Last year, even though Potbelly's had a mediocre year, the CEO doubled his pay to $2.3 million a year, a wage of $1,000 an hour. Now, Robert's not fighting for $1,000 an hour, but he knows he deserves to be paid more. That's why Robert has joined with his co-workers in Washington and all across the country, bringing others with him to the fight for higher wages in the fight for 15. This fight has inspired millions of people who see themselves in Robert's story. 106 million people like Robert, 1/3 of our country, live below 200% of the poverty line, earning less than $47,000 for a family of 4. So how did we get into this mess? Between 1959 and 1973, there was a strong relationship between economic growth on the one hand and reductions in the poverty rate on the other. They broke apart in the 1970s. If they had stayed together, the poverty rate in the United States would have fallen to 0 in 1986 and stayed there ever since. If wages had kept pace with productivity, America's lowest paid workers today would be making $17 an hour. So what happened? There's a simple problem and a simple solution, but for 50 years, we've been lost in the haze of a tired and stale debate. Conservatives blame the victim and promote trickle-down, and many liberals say that there's not much we can do about the inequality and poverty that's generated in the market, through the market, except some ameliorating programs to help at the margins. Both are missing the big problem. We need to value people's labor in proportion to their contribution to our nation's bottom line. The best anti-poverty program is a job that pays a living wage. We can break out of this stale debate that we've been stuck in for 50 years and reduce poverty by 80% in this country by taking 3 simple steps. Number 1, we can raise wages so that workers earn a living wage. Wages catch up with productivity growth. The minimum wage goes up not a little, but a lot, like they've done in Seattle. And we need to make it easier for workers to bargain with their employers through collective bargaining at the workplace. Number 2, we need to eliminate racial and gender inequity in the labor market. Poverty is not just an economic issue, it's a racial justice issue, it's a women's rights issue. We need to tear down the obstacles to employment for the formerly incarcerated. We need to create workplaces that recognize that workers are actually people with families. And clearly, we need to change things so that your paycheck isn't smaller just because of your skin color or because you're a woman. Number 3, we need full employment policies in this country again. We've got to invest in key sectors of the economy, from the green economy to early childhood education to infrastructure, so that we can create millions of jobs, and we need to make those jobs accessible to people who need them. This 3-point good job strategy would reduce poverty in the United States of America by 80%. This is the moral crisis of our time, and this issue ought to be at the center of progressive politics in our country and the 2016 election. We now know what to do. We need to build the public will to do it. Big change in America comes through social movements. Social movements help to make the impossible possible. 15 years ago, few in this country would have believed that marriage equality or a path to citizenship for undocumented immigrants would move to the center of the political debate. Now it's a question of when they will be achieved, not if. We can do the same on the issue of poverty. We at the Center for Community Change are launching a 10-year campaign to do just that. Join us. This is the richest country in the history of the earth. we can build a society in which everyone has not just enough to survive, but enough to thrive. Thank you very much.
Anat Shanker Osario.
So I hold the dubious distinction of being a repeater. I was here last year.